Howdy. Earlier this week, I watched a documentary from ESPN talking about the life of Junior Seau. For those who don't know, Junior Seau was a football player. He was a great defensive football player. First ballot Hall of Famer, All-American at USC, won every college award he could for a defensive player, multiple times All-Star in the NFL. And, he ended up committing suicide after he retired, some years after he retired. His brain was tested and he had CTE. And like a lot of other football players, he just was always in pain. However, it seems weird to say that you can't blame everything on football and you can't blame everything on football injuries. It turns out that he was Samoan. Okay, most people knew that who knew him. But I did not know this fact, that he came from a large family. He was the youngest of the large family, and he was the only one of the 7 children that his father said he did not have to get a job and work. The reason being, his father realized early on that he had athletic talent. At that time, he was great in basketball, he was great in football, he was great in track, and he figured that he was going to be a star and that he was going to be a success and he would make enough money for the entire family. By entire family, I don't mean just his father and mother and siblings. I mean the entire family. And this was expected of him. And he was told that it was expected of him. And so he did everything he could. He outworked everybody. And he did anything he could to win or to be successful. I put it that way because even though he was a great player, he wasn't always on great teams, even in high school. And if his team lost a game or they lost a championship, which they did, his father said it was his fault, that he wasn't good enough to take his team to another level. And he believed that. After he got out of high school, he was supposed to go to college, he was supposed to go to USC on a scholarship, but he couldn't pass the SAT. His father said he brought shame upon the family and didn't talk to him for a year. Can you imagine that? It is tough to sit back and think of parents that would do something like that in today's world, but although I know there are a bunch. And when his team, San Diego Chargers, they were a terrible team, and his father always told him it was his fault. And then one year they had a magical year, and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. My God, I mix my sports. Anyway, the 49ers in the 90s were a nasty team. You weren't going to beat them. After they lost Joe Montana, they had Steve Young, 2 straight Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they got crushed. And his father said it was his fault that they didn't win. Years later, after he left San Diego, and he goes to the New England Patriots, and they're 17-0, and they get to the Super Bowl, and they lose to the New York Giants, which I was happy about, by the way. But his father said it was his fault that they lost, even though he had nothing to do with any of the plays that helped the Giants win the game. And he believed his father. That's a heck of a lot of pressure. Parents can mess you up, they can lift you up, they can comfort you, or they can be the worst enemy you've ever had. And, sometimes you wonder how people with parents who aren't necessarily always, we'll just say, doing the proper thing, how people can survive from that. I had different types of parents. I really did. My parents were good people, but my dad was the sort who laughed a lot. He joked a lot. He loved people. People loved him. I mean, people just really just gravitated toward my dad. Mom was a different sort. My mother was always stressed. She was kind of shy. She was very secretive. She could be engaging, but, you couldn't say that Mom had tons and tons of friends. I have taken something from both parents. I see my mother now, and Mom is not necessarily the happiest person in the world because of her dementia, but that's how she was when I was a kid. So I have those moments, for instance, where I want to pull back from people. She was an only child. I'm an only child. I find that I have pulled away from a lot more people as I've gotten older. Yet, I like to laugh. I like to watch comedies. I like to find the humor in things. I like to try to make other people feel good. In a weird way, though I don't have tons and tons of friends, I have people who are drawn to me sometimes. It is so funny. Babies love me. Older people love me. And I can go places and not say anything to anyone, and someone will come over and start talking to me. And then I can talk to them because, you know what? They broke the ice. I didn't have to. And it's an interesting thing because I had never really thought much that I had gotten anything from Mom. I thought I'd gotten a lot of things from Dad. But yes, I did get a lot of things from my mother. And there are people I know now who think that some of the things their parents said to them or did to them when they were younger have ruined their lives. And there's some other people who think their parents did the right thing, let them learn things for themselves, guided them in the right direction, and they're very thankful. And I'm here to say, yes, parents can give you good things. They may be bad for you, but if you're willing, if you're strong enough to do it, you can overcome this. Junior Seau, for instance, his wife and a few other people said, you need to go to counseling. You should go to counseling. And he said, yes, I will do it. But then he turned it away every single time. Now, at this point, he started having the brain issues, and no one knew about CTE back in the 90s. So he was a little bit incapable of doing it. But if someone had really said something to him maybe 10 years earlier, maybe there's a possibility that Junior Seau would have been a success and might not have gone down the rabbit hole that he did. Maybe. You know, I mean, with CTE, you just never know. We've got a local player, or a local former player here. His name is Tim Green. And Tim Green was a high school star. He went to the same high school I did 8 years later. We went to the same high school I did, went to Syracuse University, was an All-American, was a Rhodes Scholar, went to the NFL, played for Atlanta Falcons for, I think, 8 years. You know, wasn't an all-star, but he was a good player. And then once he was done with that, he was a TV football commentator. He commentated on some other things. He wrote a bunch of books. He was a lawyer. He was a local high school football coach. This guy just did everything. And now he's suffering from a little bit of CTE, slight bit of dementia, and Lou Gehrig's disease. And by the way, he was adopted. He didn't find his parents or his birth parents until his early 20s. I don't know if they drove him. I mean, his adoptive parents, I don't know if they drove him, but this was a really driven guy, and he was a good guy. I'm lucky to say that I got to meet him once, and all I did, I just went and shook his hand. I said, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for the local area. I want to applaud you for everything you've done in life. That actually felt better for me than anything that anyone could have ever given to me, that I said that to him. And that was maybe 7 years ago, and look where he is now. I feel so bad for him. But you sit there and you want to say, you hope that maybe his parents encouraged him to be a driven guy instead of being driven because they didn't treat him right. I only have hopes for that. So, if any of y'all feel trapped, or you look back at your life, maybe you sit there and you think a little bit and say, you know what, geez, yeah, you know what, I learned some bad habits from my parents or whatever, and I'm doing some things. I need to change. You know what? You can change. Heck, I'd be willing to talk to you, but you don't need me. There's counseling, there's life coaches, there's a lot of things you can write. You know what? Take a journal. Okay, this isn't my journal, but my journal's over here. But take a journal, write stuff down. Give yourself a chance to grow. Give yourself a chance to succeed. Give yourself a chance to feel better. Nobody has to be stuck in a bad place. And if you're in a good place, you know what? Love to hear that as well. What kind of parents did you have? Go ahead and share. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you all have a wonderful day.